excellent speakers lined up for you tonight, including brief presentations from the authors of seed-funded projects, which have been recently completed. We look forward to hearing about these research projects and key findings as the evening proceeds. Thank you in advance to the guest speakers for agreeing to share their experiences of working together as North-South partners. In addition, we will be awarding the 2025 John Coollahan Award, and Professor Noel Purdy will explain more about that award later on this evening. As attendees, you will also have the opportunity to ask questions about the seed funding application process from members of the committee. We hope that you will take this opportunity to draw on the experience of the members present tonight. Finally, I will hand over to Julie, the Southern Co-Chair, to conclude the evening and to wish you good luck with your application for funding. So at this point, I will now hand over to Lorraine to introduce our guest speakers. Thank you, Lorraine.
Thanks so much for that lovely introduction. This is quite a nice part of the programme that we have tonight. Hopefully it'll whet your appetite. What we have now are going to be 4 different projects that have been completed in very recently in the past year, to give you a sense of the type of collaboration that has been happening and the diversity of the projects. So without further ado, I would like to introduce it to Dr. Pamela Moffat. And Pamela is from Stranmillis University College, and her co-partner is Dr. Siún Nic Mhairi, and Siún is in Dublin City University. The project that they received seed funding for was called Outdoor Learning in Mathematics, Building Capacity for Outdoor Learning in Mathematics through Cross-Border Collaboration. So I'll hand over now to Pamela and to Siún. Thank you.
I'm just going to share my screen here, if I may. Apologies.
That's lovely, Siún. It's coming up. Perfect. Thank you.
Great. Okay. So thank you very much to Lorraine, and thank you to the wider team for the opportunity to speak with you all here today. So as Lorraine said, I'm Siún Nic Mhairi from DCU, and together with my SCoTENS partner, Dr. Pamela Moffat, we're going to tell you a little bit about our project. So I first met Pamela over 10 years ago. I was introduced to Pamela by my PhD supervisor, Doris Corcoran, but I never actually had the opportunity to work with Pamela until this project came up. And the project arose really from Pamela's interest and her prior work in outdoor mathematics education. So I'm going to hand over to her to tell you about some of the aims and key actions in our project.
Okay, thank you, Siún. The aim of our project was to build teacher capacity for outdoor learning in mathematics. And Siún said from my earlier work and research in outdoor learning in mathematics, I'd come to learn that one of the key barriers to provision in schools is teacher uncertainty about how to link the outdoor environment with the curriculum. And there's evidence to suggest that many teachers simply don't have the time to engage in planning, and they lack ideas on how to use the outdoor environment effectively to enhance delivery of the curriculum. So our key objective was to develop resources to support teacher planning. And the resources were designed to integrate the outdoor environment with the primary maths curriculum. And as the research shows a decline in outdoor learning as children progress through primary education, we decided to focus on creating resources specifically for upper primary classes. So now we're going to talk about the different phases of our project. In the very first phase, we began with a scoping review of relevant research papers, policy documentation, books, and internet sources to identify good practice in outdoor learning in mathematics. And this research informed the development of a large-scale survey, which we sent to all primary schools in the north and south of Ireland. And the purpose of that survey was to investigate primary teachers' views and their current practice in relation to the use of the outdoor environment in maths. In the second phase then, we developed draft materials for teachers to support their planning and their practice. And in the third phase, we recruited a professional learning community of teachers from the north and south to trial the materials and provide feedback. And based on that feedback, we then refined the materials in phase 4. And when they were completed, we published them online. We had a launch event, it was actually last March, March 2024. And at the launch event, we publicised the resource more widely and began promoting it also on social media. And then we finished off by evaluating the resource and the project as a whole.
Sorry, Shun, I can't hear you.
Oh,
There we
can you hear
go.
me now? Yeah,
Yes.
sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, apologies, Lorraine. Okay, so just in terms of what we gained from the project, as I mentioned previously, we hadn't worked together before, so this was a significant new partnership at the institutional level. Also, because of our means of working with a professional learning community of teachers from North and South, that was significant in terms of building cross-border partnerships. The project had important impact at a professional development level too, for the teachers, but also for ourselves. It enhanced our own understanding of how the outdoors can be used in mathematics, and supported our work in initial teacher education and continuing professional development. In addition, it supported our professional development more broadly. I gained a much deeper understanding of how the educational system works in the North, gaining insight into the impact of industrial action in the North. And I think Pamela learned about the impact of the new Irish primary maths curriculum, because that shaped how I was thinking about our project activities and outcomes. We also had some research outputs. We presented at ESAI in Belfast. We intend to contribute at MEI, the upcoming MEI conference in Dublin. And we currently have a research article under review in Irish Educational Studies that we hope to see published in the future.
And finally, just to give some advice for others who are thinking about applying for funding, we cannot overemphasize the importance of careful planning right from the outset. We'd recommend starting by developing a really detailed project timeline and estimating your budget in advance. We find that working through that process really helped to clarify our objectives and refine our project design. And also helped to confirm that we could work together, because we obviously didn't know each other very well, and just even talking through what we wanted to achieve and how we'd go about that helped us to realize that we could work together. It's not too late to reconsider if you think you might not be able to at that stage. Once the project is underway, we found it really helpful to schedule regular meetings. We always had a very clear agenda. We set aside dedicated time, but at the same time we had to be flexible, because things will come up unexpectedly and you may need to adapt those plans, but just trying to keep on track. We just found that having those regular meetings just kept us focused and ensured that we made steady progress. Finally, and we certainly benefited from the expertise of colleagues in relation to financial and technical matters. Neither of us had designed a website before, and we really benefited from the support of colleagues. So make the most of other colleagues' expertise. Seeking their input will help to strengthen your project and contribute to its overall success. So thank you. We really enjoyed working on the project, and we'd really encourage anyone else who's thinking about doing so to certainly put in an application.
That's fantastic. Thanks very much, Pamela and Shun. That was very insightful. We're going to move straight on now, if that's all right. We're going to hear from Dr. Laura Gormley, Dublin City University, and Dr. Devon Rami from Queen's University, Belfast. Now, this is a long title, so bear with me, everyone. Planning and Language Aims of the Autism Community and Educators. That is, exploring the preferences of the autistic community and educational professionals in relation to individual education planning and language use. So I'll hand over now to Laura and to Devon to talk us through their project.
Thank you very much, Lorraine, and thank you to SCoTENS for inviting us to speak tonight and share our project. Devon is going to start by giving just an overview of our project, including the team members. We'll then both talk about what we've gained professionally from the project, and then I'll end with some advice for those considering an application for the coming year. So I'll hand over to Devon.
Hi, everybody. My name is Devon Ramey, and I am a lecturer, like she said, at Queen's University Belfast. So our project examined the language preferences and the individualized education plan priorities of both autistic individuals who are living in Ireland, as well as educators who are supporting autistic learners in Ireland. In particular, we were interested in how identity first versus person first language is used when speaking about autism. So identity first words would be things that prioritize the person first. So autistic person versus person first language would place the person first. So it would say something like person with autism. We found that there have been related studies on this topic in other regions, but it is important that we are examining how we are talking about autism within our own cultural context, because language choices can either ameliorate or perpetuate stigmatizing views about autistic people. And then while we were researching this topic, we also found that autistic priorities in relation to IEP goals, they have largely been ignored within the literature to date. So we further aimed to understand the values and the educational priorities of the Irish autistic community as compared to educators. And then we subsequently made recommendations to educators so that their practice could better align with autistic people's wants and needs. So our team initially consisted of just us two, just me and Laura. However, given the research focus and in line with the Nothing About Us Without Us motto, it was really important to us that we centered autistic voices from the outset. So we therefore invited two autistic community members to join our research team, and we implemented a community-based participatory research project. So all members of the research team were considered to be co-principal investigators, and we all had an equal partnership throughout the research process. And it was really important to us that we were reimbursing our colleagues for their time. So the majority of our seed funding budget was actually used to do this. So I'm going to move on to how I personally improved professionally through this project. So I definitely think it helped to improve my organization, collaboration, and project management skills. It definitely helped me to expand my professional network and build connections with individuals outside of my normal circle of colleagues here at Queen's. I learned a lot more about the needs of autistic individuals and how best to support them, which has really guided my professional practice now and my personal interactions. And this also led, they couldn't be here with us tonight, but our colleagues, Carrie and Natalie, because of this project, they went on to begin their doctoral and master's level studies respectively at the conclusion of this project. So that was excellent news. I'm going to pass over to Laura to share what she learned.
So in addition to what Devon has already mentioned, we succeeded in submitting 2 articles for peer review. One has already been published in the European Journal of Education, and we're just awaiting news on the second article from the Irish Journal of Education. So that's really positive, and getting our studies, our co-participatory research out there is a really positive thing. From a very kind of local professional improvement piece, as chair of the Cert in Autism Education at DCU, the results of our studies really helps kind of solidify and guide some of the work that we're doing on that programme and what we're prioritising on that programme. So the seed funding really helped in respect of my own teaching and guiding that particular programme. So then just moving on quickly to advice for those considering submitting a proposal for the coming year. I suppose building on what the previous team had spoken about, give yourself plenty of time to develop your idea. I suppose we were working on this for initially we started at 6 months, but I think it took us about 9 to 10 months to solidify the project. And we then, for any of you working in DCU in particular, but I would suggest this to anybody, approach your research support teams in your institutes. We're very, very fortunate in the Institute of Education in DCU to have a wonderful research support team. Trina O'Hanlon was a very, very pivotal support within developing our application. So I would strongly suggest anyone who's considering this to approach your research support team, and then to think about the impact that your work will have. The study, what the outcomes of the study, what will the impact of those be? Not necessarily just in terms of research and adding to the literature, but real world impact. And I think that's a really, really important component of the application. Have that well thought through and what you hope to achieve in terms of real world impact for education, both in the Republic of Ireland and Northern Ireland. I think that's a really important piece to consider. So thank you for taking the time to listen to us this evening, and I'll pass back over to Lorraine.
Thanks very much, Laura and Devon. Yes, that was very interesting. Now we're going to hear from a team. There are three from that team here today to talk about their project. We have Professor Barbara Skinner from Ulster University, Rachel Nihirnig, and she's from Reno Institute of Education, and Dr. Maria Stewart from the Education Authority. And their project was Homeschool Partnership with Migrant Families, a Way Forward on the Island of Ireland. So we'll hand over to Barbara now.
So hi everyone, good to see you. I initiated this project with a colleague that I'd worked with before. That's Dr. Barbara O'Toole at Marino Institute of Education in Dublin. Sorry about that. And we brought on board three early career researchers, Maria Stewart from the Education Authority and Rachel Nihirnig from Marino Institute in Dublin too. And importantly, we also used Sophie Kokor, who's based at St Mary's University College. She's an EAL specialist. So we had a good mix of early career researchers of different types and senior academics. So they provided, I think, different lenses to explore our topic, which is homeschool partnership for migrant families on the island of Ireland. Basically, the project involved drawing on a framework of activities, and this framework had been set up in Maria Stewart's PhD originally. So we wanted to try out those activities in order to bring migrant families into schools and to create partnership between these migrant parents and their schools. And we used the family's funds of knowledge, so to speak, in terms of storytelling about these funds of knowledge in the school classroom with school pupils. So we had a group of parents at a school in Dublin, a group of parents at a school in Dublin, school in Belfast, who worked with children and parents to implement these funds of knowledge activities. I'll pass over to Rachel now, I think.
Hi, thanks, Barbara. Hi to you, Verfad. So this evening, I'll just very briefly be covering some of what we gained professionally from engaging in this seed-funded project, and I'll focus sort of especially on what I gained professionally as an early career researcher. So personally, I have gotten very valuable experience through working on the SCoTENS funded project, gaining great insight into the application process for research funding, which was new to me. Applying for ethical approval between multiple institutions and the complexities related to that, engaging in collaborative research, and networking with other researchers from different jurisdictions, which has been very valuable to me as an early career researcher and to the rest of the team. Engaging in this research has sort of gave us the opportunity to co-present nationally and internationally about our homeschool partnership framework and the research on this. And having the backing of SCoTENS behind us was great. So far, we have presented at the SCoTENS conference, the BEER conference in Manchester, the Literacy Association of Ireland conference, the International ULCO conference online, as well as presenting individually at our own institutions and places of work about our homeschool partnership framework. As you're probably aware, as part of the SCoTENS funding, project teams submit a SCoTENS research report, which is shared online. And this also opens up opportunities for submitting a journal article for publication, which we have done based on our homeschool partnership framework, thanks to the seed funding, and this article is currently under review. So finally, one of the most important things that I gained professionally from engaging in the seed funded project is the partnership and collaboration with colleagues from the North, gaining insight into the education system in a different jurisdiction and the different supports that are provided to migrant pupils and their parents or guardians in the Republic and in Northern Ireland. So for example, the role of the homeschool community liaison teacher was new to our colleagues from the North, as well as the role and supports of the newcomer teacher in the North, which was new for myself and my colleague from Reno. Getting the opportunity to work with students and school staff in both jurisdictions has been really insightful and really valuable to us. So just sort of finally engaging in this SCoTENS funded research has been really beneficial, as you can see. So thank you very much to all of you. So I'm going to pass you on now to Maria, who will share her advice to those considering submitting a proposal for funding. Thanks a million.
Thanks very much, Rachel and Barbara. Yeah, so now I am hoping to be able to provide a few practical suggestions for any of you who are considering making a proposal. Firstly, I would suggest that you choose your team wisely. We had all worked together previously in some aspect. For example, Barbara Skinner and Barbara O'Toole had already worked on SCoTENS projects together. And when I was working as a classroom teacher and an EAL coordinator, Sophie was my link officer in the full service community network. And I think by having these established professional relationships already in place, we were aware of one another's common interests, our strengths and our skills. So it made it really easy for us to work together as a team. And as Rachel has already discussed, working with the two Barbaras gave she and I the opportunity to really develop our skill set as early career researchers. It was invaluable. Another point to consider is how to keep the project manageable in terms of budget, time and workload. Now, the Homeschool Partnership Framework contained 7 partnership activities, but it became evident quite early on that to pilot all 7 would be a huge undertaking. So we had to strategically select 2 on which to focus. And in terms of time, as Rachel has already indicated as well, ensure to build in time for ethical approval across both institutions. This did take longer than we had anticipated, if I'm honest. So it might be worth for some of you at this point finding out the dates of key upcoming ethics committees within your respective institutions and potentially backward planning to make sure that you meet those deadlines as they come. With regards to budget, prioritisation is key. It's not a huge amount of money. And as our project involved working with minority communities with varying levels of English language acquisition, there was some expenditure that was simply non-negotiable, such as translation. And we also felt that it was crucial to bring together participants from both school settings for the final session. So there was significant cost involved in that, as we had to hire premises and buses. So that's primarily where the majority of our budget went. So what I would say is, identify your must-haves without which your research wouldn't happen. And then if you do have any remaining budget after that, then you can work out where you're going to utilise that. And I think another key recommendation is refer to the SCoTENS website. If you read reports from previous seed funding projects, that will give you a really good sense of what is doable within the time frame. The topic 2 needs to be something that's pertinent and timely in both jurisdictions and something that aligns with the core values of SCoTENS. And finally, as with every piece of research, no matter how big or small, it comes down to the so what. So what is the core purpose or goal? For us, it was to enhance the sense of belonging of migrant families in schools, and also to give teachers some real tools to enable them to be more culturally responsive in their settings. We've disseminated our findings in all the traditional formats, but what I would suggest, again, is that if you really want to get bang for your buck in terms of impact, think about extending your network beyond third level institutions. My full-time post is as a school improvement professional in the Education Authority in Northern Ireland. So as such, I have been able to directly influence teacher professional learning and practice within EA. The Homeschool Partnership Framework is now being offered to school clusters in areas with high proportions of migrant pupils through the EA's Community Use of Schools programme. And this is a funded initiative, and it also targets a wide number of schools throughout the north. But my biggest piece of advice, if you're thinking about submitting a proposal, do it. We've gained so much from taking part, and I hope that you found some of what we've had to say this evening helpful. And if you have any questions about our project specifically or seed funding in general, we'd be more than happy to answer them during the Q&A. So thank you very much, Lorraine, and to the SCoTENS committee for asking us to present.
Gosh, thank you so much, Barbara, Rachel, and Maria for that. Now we're moving on to our last group of panelists this evening, and we have Beverly McCormick from Ulster University and Dr. Mairead Holden from Trinity College, and they are going to tell us a bit more about exploring integration of STEM with teachers north and south.
Thank you very much, Lorraine. It's a pleasure to be here this evening with colleagues from the north and south of Ireland. And thank you to the SCoTENS committee for giving us this opportunity to present our research. This evening, I'll start with a brief introduction to our team, a little bit about our project. I'll then hand over to my colleague Mairead, who is on the call as well, to talk a little bit further about the project and to offer some nuggets of advice about the professional learning aspect of our project. And then finally, I'll round it up with some advice for anyone who is interested in getting involved or considering putting in an application for a SCoTENS seed fund for the grant. So this evening, my name is Beverly McCormick. I am from Ulster University. With me is Dr. Mairead Holden. She's from the Amber Centre at Trinity College Dublin. And our third partner in this project is unable to be with us here this evening. And that is Dr. Michelle Fitzpatrick. And she wishes that she was here this evening, but due to some personal circumstances, she's not able to be with us. So our project was entitled Exploring Integrated STEM with Teachers North and South. And our project was looking at really the positioning of STEM within the curriculum in terms of teachers and their leadership and their confidence to teach through an integrated STEM approach in primary schools. So I'll hand over now to Mairead, who will talk a little bit further about our project.
Lovely. Thank you so much, Beverly. So in terms of what our research project looked like, it took two sort of stages or phases. The first part of our project involved a survey which was administered to teachers in primary schools, north and south. And we used the findings from that where we had asked respondents to indicate their level of confidence, how frequently they taught STEM, particular barriers that they faced, and also what supports they would like to help them to address these barriers. The second part of our study then used this information to design a teacher STEM leadership CPD programme, which involved a small cohort of teachers from the border region. So we had one sort of cross-border teacher leader group, and we also had a parallel group in the southwest of Ireland. So I will tell you a little bit about what we learned from engaging in this project together. So what was a little bit different, I guess, about our project is that the three of us are all early career researchers, but we all share a common passion in teacher education, in teacher professional development, and in STEM. And each of us bring a different sort of angle to that, which made this really interesting. And we learned so much from each other. But there's very few funding opportunities that are open to early career researchers to bring them together to develop their research skills and their collaborative skills. A big learning for us, I guess, was around our project management, our budget management, our ethics, and all of the things the other speakers have spoken to. In addition to learning from each other, we had the benefit of learning from our others' institutions. So, for example, when developing our data sharing agreement, we were able to learn from each other's institutions, and our research support staff as well were instrumental. I'm glad that has been mentioned. We also got to explore common ground and common challenges, not just in relation to STEM, but the challenges that teachers face in classrooms and in their school communities, both in Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland, and also bringing those teachers together and coming together ourselves to reflect on how we could move towards solutions to address those challenges. The funding gave us a wonderful opportunity to share our project learnings with both national and international colleagues. So we were fortunate enough to travel to the ATEE conference in Bergamo in Italy, where we got to present our findings. We also presented papers at the BIRA conference in Manchester and at SMEC in DCU over the summer. And those conferences allowed us to widen our network, learn from others, and to share this small scale piece of research with an international audience and gain international perspectives from expert researchers in the process. For myself and Beverly and Michelle, probably the most powerful thing we gained from working together was our new professional friendships. We had known each other well enough, I suppose, before we started, but this really elevated our professional relationship, and we've become really firm friends, and we've lots more projects and ideas for working together going forward. So we're so grateful to SCoTENS for bringing us together in this way. So I will hand back to Beverly, who's going to share some pieces of advice for those considering applying.
Thank you, Mairead. I think that there have been fantastic comments already made to this, and I'm probably going to reiterate some of what has already been said. But I think for us, some of our key sort of areas of advice is choose something you're passionate about. This is work. This is on top of your normal day-to-day work, regardless of what situation you're in. You're still a researcher. You are possibly at a different stage in your career than us, or you may be like us and just at the very beginning of your research, sort of springboarding into other areas. So choose something that you're passionate about, something that's relevant in education. Think about what's happening. There's some great changes happening both in Northern Ireland and in the Republic at the moment in terms of policy and systems in education. So think about how it can be impactful. For us, it was really important to develop something that we felt if teachers were giving us their time, we could hand this back to them, and it would be something that they could put into place in future years and really build on what we had shared with them. As has already been said, establish some clear objectives for your area of study, but be willing to change those as your project develops a little bit. But make it manageable as well. You know, we talk about SMART targets, and this is so important in this because it's not your PhD. It's not a 3-year program. It's a short, impactful, focused study that you can then use for future study as well. So establish your clear objectives, keep it manageable, and work within that. We cannot underestimate and sort of not point towards the administrative aspect of this. That's probably the most difficult part of a project like this, especially when you're working across different institutions. Each institution has its own nuances and little challenges. So make sure that you connect in with the right people get to know your school board staff. The office folk are really, really vital in terms of keeping your budget on track and putting you into contact with other people. And again, use your networks as well, you know, even within your own institutions, because there will be someone who has availed of a SCoTENS seed funding research project funding before, and they'll be able to guide you in the right place. But things like ethics, joint data controllers, sharing data, how the data is protected and locked down, all those can seem like huge challenges at the start until you get to understand those processes. So don't give up, keep knocking on those doors and get connected with the right people. We've talked a little bit already about timetabling meetings. Absolutely have those in your diary. But for us, the three of us sort of knew each other a little bit, but not really that well. We hadn't worked together on projects before. So for us, our meetings were both focused on the project, but also a little bit of time for social. We really got to know each other, and getting to know each other links into that sort of the last point even that I have there. Play to your collective strengths. You tell each other what you've done in the past. Tell each other what your visions are, even in your careers, and really get to know each other and become firm friends as a result of this, because that's where the fun in your project lies, and that's where we can support each other, and where possibly you're not able to attend one meeting, your colleagues can carry you through that, or vice versa. But it's just so vital to have that understanding of each other. And finally, I'll go back to sort of the second point there. It is a small scale project. Keep it manageable and make sure that you tie it back into your objectives so that by the end, you can see what you've accomplished, the connections you've made, the impact that you've made within that area of study, and celebrate it. So if you are thinking about applying, do it, and then make sure you come back and share your findings with the group, because there is a beautiful community here of educators, researchers, and people who are so invested in education, and it's a great place to be. So thank you very much to SCoTENS for the opportunity to share our research with the group, and I'll hand back to Lorraine. Thank you.
So thank you very much, Beverly and Mairead. And it was a nice comment you made about like celebrating your friendships and your work together. So that leads us actually on very nicely to the next part of the programme this evening, which is the launch of the John Coonahan Award. So tonight we have Professor Noel Purdy, OBE. He is the Director of Research and Scholarship at Stranmillis University College, Belfast. And tonight he's going to announce and award the winner of the John Coonahan Award to the successful seed-funded project for 2025. I'll hand over to you, Noel.
Thanks very much, Lorraine. Good evening, everybody. It is a great privilege to be here this evening to present the John Coonahan Award that recognises excellence in research, collaboration and professional learning. Values that Professor John Coonahan, one of the two co-founders of SCoTENS, so passionately championed. This award celebrates work that not only deepens our understanding of key issues in education, but also embodies the spirit of cross-border cooperation and mutual learning that has always been at the heart of SCoTENS since it was established back in 2003. This year we had several shortlisted projects, and as ever, the competition was intense as our panel of judges read and independently assessed the shortlisted reports. And there was a lot of work in that, and let me take a moment just to thank my fellow judges for all the time and effort that they expended in reading the reports. We've already heard about some of those projects this evening, each one highly original, insightful and collaborative in nature. And as Lorraine said, it's been really lovely actually to hear the personal accounts of what the project leads have learnt from the experience of working together, the wonderful advice that they've offered. And also what struck me was the importance of relationship building. And interestingly, in 2025, I'm still collaborating with a SCoTENS research partner that I first worked with 15 years ago on a seed funding project. So I can only echo what I think it was Beverly and Mairead were saying just a moment ago, because the relationships formed through seed funding and through SCoTENS generally can last many years. But in the end, we as a panel have come to the unanimous decision to present this year's Coolahan Award to exploring integration of STEM with teachers north and south. That's the SCoTENS project that you've just heard about. And that examines how primary teachers, as we've just heard, in both the Republic of Ireland and Northern Ireland integrate STEM into their classrooms. Indulge me for a few moments because I'm going to tell you a little bit more about the project possibly than Beverly and Marie have just told you, and also explain why we liked it so much. Study has two key areas of focus. First, capturing teachers' perceptions and practices, and second, evaluating a STEM leadership CPD program designed to build the capacity of teachers to lead STEM education within their schools. One of the report's most striking findings is that while Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland operate within different educational systems, we're familiar with that, teachers on both sides of the border face remarkably similar challenges when it comes to embedding integrated STEM education. And indeed, that is probably a finding of many of the projects which come through the seed funding programme. The report identifies several significant barriers to effective integrated STEM education, many of which will resonate with those working in that particular field. Firstly, time constraints emerge as a major issue. Teachers struggle to fit STEM into an already packed curriculum. Many feel the pressure to focus on core subjects like literacy and numeracy, and that limits opportunities for creative, hands-on, integrated STEM learning. It's not easy. Without dedicated time for planning and collaboration, efforts to integrate STEM often remain inconsistent. Secondly, limited resources and funding are highlighted as key obstacles. Many schools lack the necessary equipment, such as science kits, digital technologies, materials for hands-on learning, although, of course, we did read about examples where teachers were being very inventive and bringing lots of their own resources into, and we know that teachers do that. But even where some resources are available, there's often not enough for all students to engage meaningfully in these integrated STEM activities. Third major barrier is teachers' own confidence and experience with STEM generally and integrated STEM in particular. Many educators feel uncertain about their own STEM knowledge in the primary sector, particularly if they haven't had significant exposure to integrated STEM education in their own training or previous teacher experience. The report reveals that while there is enthusiasm for STEM and integrated STEM education, many teachers lack access to sustained high-quality CPD that would help build their confidence and capacity. So these challenges are compounded then by a lack of whole school approaches to professional development. Many teachers report that CPD in STEM is often taken up by individuals rather than being embedded into school-wide professional learning structures. And as a result, knowledge and skills don't always spread effectively across the staff, and there's little opportunity for long-term collaboration. However, the report does not simply outline challenges. I'm glad it moved beyond the challenges. It also offers clear and thoughtful recommendations for overcoming them. It calls for more structured and sustained approaches to CPD, ensuring that teachers have the opportunity to develop their STEM knowledge and leadership skills in a way that's meaningful and directly applicable to their school context. The findings also point to the need for school leaders and policymakers to create the conditions that allow STEM teacher leadership to flourish, whether that is by providing time for collaboration, investing in resources, or fostering a culture that encourages innovation. In particular, I really liked the teacher leadership vignettes, and I know it's tucked in at the end of the report, and many people may have missed it, but actually I really like the teacher leadership vignettes, and I think some of my fellow judges did as well, because they illustrate the journey of STEM leaders at different stages of their development, and I hadn't seen that before. These vignettes provide a valuable roadmap then for teachers who wish to move from simply delivering STEM lessons to leading and embedding STEM across their schools. So we have then 4 different types of STEM teacher leaders. The emerging STEM leaders, they're passionate, they create engaging STEM experiences, but they're still building their confidence and leadership. Secondly, developing STEM leaders. They've begun to take on leadership roles, often informally, but they might still be struggling with persuading colleagues to engage in STEM initiatives. Thirdly, then, established STEM leaders, educators who not only integrate STEM into their own classrooms, but they've begun to actively mentor colleagues and develop whole school strategies. And then finally, at the top of the tree, as it were, these advanced STEM leaders are those who influence STEM education beyond their own schools, building strong networks with businesses, universities, and policymakers. These vignettes, I think, are really invaluable because they offer a clear developmental model of leadership growth, showing that teacher leadership is not something that happens overnight, but it is instead a gradual and has to be a supported process. The report emphasises that with the right conditions, structured CPD, whole school collaboration, leadership support, and more teachers can move along this continuum, strengthening STEM education in primary schools in Northern Ireland and in the Republic of Ireland. I'll not say too much more, except that the report is available, I'm sure, on the SCoTENS website. So please do read it. It's got a beautiful cover, as you can see as well, which entices you in. So please do read the report for yourselves. But I'm delighted to announce that the authors of the excellent report, and we've got two of them here with us this evening, Dr. Michelle Fitzpatrick from Mary Immaculate, who unfortunately can't be here, as we've just heard, but as you have just seen and heard, Beverly McCormick is here from Ulster, and Maria Holden from the Amber Centre at Trinity College Dublin. So congratulations to them. Their work is, I think, an outstanding example of rigorous, insightful research that not only advances academic understanding, but also provides really practical strategies for these real-world educational challenges. I'm not a STEM expert, but I find it really a riveting and a very challenging read. So on behalf of the judging panel and indeed the entire SCoTENS committee, I extend my warmest congratulations to Michelle, Beverly and Mairead. Your work is a wonderful example, I think, of cross-border collaboration. Not only is it a high-quality research report, but it exemplifies the spirit of SCoTENS. And when I hold up the certificate, which I would normally be able to just pass across to you and shake your hand, unfortunately, I can't do that, Mairead and Beverly, but I can show you this certificate. And it does mention on the certificate, which hopefully you will receive very soon and frame and put on your wall in your offices or in your living room. It does say that it's in recognition of the research report being selected in line with the values and ideals of SCoTENS. And that came across very strongly from your report. It was acknowledged by all of the judges, and it was a unanimous decision in the end. Despite strong competition from other projects, it was a unanimous decision from the judges. So I invite you all to join me. I don't know how we're going to do this. Perhaps you can put some clap emojis or something up to congratulate Beverly, Mairead, and of course Michelle, who's not here, on a wonderful report. And it gives me great pleasure to hand over to Beverly and Mairead, who are here, to formally accept the award and perhaps to say just a few more words on behalf of your project team. So over to Beverly and Mairead. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Noel. And as two former participants and attendees of the doctoral roundtable in SCoTENS, it feels very surreal to have this project recognised. It's really wonderful. And I guess what we didn't get to mention during our presentation was the privilege of seeing and getting a view into the incredible STEM practices happening in classrooms, both in Northern Ireland and in the Republic of Ireland. As teachers, I don't think we're very good at kind of blowing our own trumpet and showcasing really excellent practice. So it was such a privilege to get to see amazing, innovative, incredible STEM leadership practices and pedagogical practices, which ultimately benefited those young people who were in those classrooms. So we learned so much from the teachers that we had the privilege of working with as part of this project as well.
Thank you, Noel, and the SCoTENS committee. It's a humbling experience to be here as well, particularly since this was our first time being involved in a seed funding project as well. So we really are honoured from that perspective. And I think we really do also have to celebrate the teachers, as Mairead has said, that we worked with. They were phenomenal. They were so humble, maybe too humble at times because the practices were fantastic, but they were so open and honest with us in terms of their challenges and areas for development and what they saw as the ultimate goal for the students that they were working with. So the teachers, I have to say, were a huge component of this project for us, and we couldn't have done it without them. So thank you to the teachers.
Thanks very much to Mairead and Beverly, and congratulations again. And I do hope that the relationship, the professional relationship and the friendship which is formed through this project will extend beyond publications as well. And hopefully you'll have other opportunities to collaborate in the months and years to come, whether through SCoTENS or other funds as well. But for now, just enjoy the award, both of you. Please do print and frame your certificate and show it to your colleagues and your line managers in your institutions as well. We're very proud of the work that you've done and the very high standard of the seed funding projects that were in the running this year. But congratulations to you in particular for winning this year's Coonahan Award. So it now gives me great pleasure to move on in the programme, and I think I'm handing over. Am I handing back to Lorraine, or am I handing over straight to Gabriel and Maria?
Go straight to Gabriel and Maria.
Okay, so we now move on to the seed funding Q&A session, and Dr. Gabriel Naguir from St Mary's University College in Belfast, and Maria Campbell from Dr. Maria Campbell from ATU St Angela's are going to tell you a little bit about the seed funding application process and also answer your questions that you might have. So over to Maria and Gabriel. Thank you.
Thanks, Noel. That's super. Gabriel, would you like to go first? I'm happy either way.
Right. Okay. I'm not sure if that video is working for me here, is it?
Not at the moment, but
no. Yeah, I've done everything I'm supposed to do down here is to
I know sharing the screens are not easy. I hear you. I hear you.
Right. Well, anyway, sorry that there's no visual here, but Maria and I are delighted to be here. Congratulations to Michelle, Beverly and Maria. It's a real honour to receive the John Coonahan Award, and I know you probably feel as proud as what we do of you, so well done. And you spoke very graciously, I have to say, of everyone who helped with your work. But thank you to everybody who contributed there, to all of the researchers. Maria and I actually noted down just some summary points that we thought would guide you if you're still thinking about making an application to the seed funding. Actually, our researchers have been so generous with their advice that we will be repeating some of that, but no harm actually to repeat certain key things that you'll want to bear in mind. So this is where I have difficulty now also with, you'll see that I'm not that familiar with using Zoom. It's another format that I use, but I'm not getting at my shared document here. Maria, can you get at that?
I can't, Gabriel, unfortunately.
Okay.
Gabriel, can I help you at all? No.
I sent it through to Tricia and Maria.
Okay.
Not too sure. Anyway, no big deal. What we wanted to do was firstly to just summarize some of the advantages that came through so strongly. And if you are sitting on the hedge there on the fence thinking about, should I do this? You know, having heard some of the advantages to participating in this process, I think that should motivate you and encourage you and show you that you will be working in a really welcoming, efficient, supportive network of peers. You will have picked up from our previous speakers that there is this very strong emphasis on building relationships, partnerships, on collaborations. And sometimes that evolves into lifelong friendships. But we're not here as a friendship agency or anything. But these partnerships are so important, because that's how SCoTENS is trying to promote teacher education right across the island. So the opportunity to build on the seed funding project and to achieve other things, other international peer-reviewed publications or other developments in your research. We heard that from some of our speakers as well. And that will, of course, be in addition to having a publication with with SCoTENS and unsuccessful completion of your project, and also the opportunity to submit to the conference. Researching a topic of passionate interest to you within a supportive, positive framework is a very precious thing. The SCoTENS has designed the seed funding process and the framework around it. Even the very application form has been designed to help you to think through your project really carefully, which makes the whole process so much easier as you proceed. Some key points to note prior to your submission, and forgive me if some of them are repeated, but again, these are important. So firstly, you'll be deciding on your project. What am I going to invest my time in researching? And we have already had some important points made on that subject. You want to think about the impact, the likely impact of your work. You certainly want to choose something that is of interest to you. You're going to spend about a year on this project, and it will make it so much more enjoyable if this is one of those topics that you feel is really important. And of course, it should be a project that's very relevant to the SCoTENS principles. And having listened to our previous speakers, you will be very clear about some of those principles. We are part of a broader peace dynamic, and certainly those principles of sharing our learning with one another and building sustainable partnerships, all of that is very evident on our website if you want to look there, or as one of our previous speakers mentioned there, look through the archive of reports. I think it was Maria Stewart who suggested that, and that's a really good idea, having a look at some of the previously written reports on the website. Choosing a team, you've got some hands-on advice there about the importance of choosing a team that you can work with. But another thing you may do is simply check the SCoTENS website. There you will find some researchers who are reaching out for partners to become involved in their projects. Also consider the criteria that are highlighted in the guidelines. So the fact that we need 2 lead partners, one north, one south, and new applicants are very welcome, or particularly applicants who may not have achieved funding in the last 5 years. That is not to suggest that there is any disadvantage to someone who has been successful in the last 5 years. It simply means we're trying to encourage more people to become involved in the community of educators that is SCoTENS. So having done all of that, you're ready to go. And we have heard several of our fellow researchers there say, if you're thinking of it, don't think anymore, just do it. So you've had lots of encouragement. Consult the SCoTENS guide for the applications for 2025. And as other speakers have said, leave time for those internal processes. For example, getting approval by head of department. You know, I have seen it even in my own institution where the head of department or the head of school has not been around at a particular time, away in other business. So, you know, factor in things like that. And if you're trying to get advice from your research support team or to get it signed off by a head of department, allow for that. Check against the 5 criteria. The good research design that you have planned, the impact that you are hoping for, the potential for capacity building, and we have heard a lot about that tonight, value for money. So our friends have referred to the importance of, giving time to and thought to the budget. But we do want to, we can't waste a penny. We have responsibility for using our sums of money sensibly and responsibly. There's also advice about where you want to think carefully about how much you apply for a particular element, such as a research assistant. So consult the guidelines and you'll find there that you do not want anything more than 40% of your project's funding application to be devoted towards that. And our final criteria there, the mutual understanding or shared understanding, and that has been expressed so beautifully by our previous speakers who have talked about the value of the relationship, the generosity with which they have shared their learning, their aspirations, their previous experiences with one another. Be mindful of the closing date, 28th of April, 2025. Do contact SCoTENS if you have any query that we can help you with. We are there at the end of an email if you want to reach out. And finally, again, just have a go. This is a first step where you'll be learning within a supportive team. You will be encouraged to share your learning and possibly to open up future possibilities for further collaborative ventures. We've heard about some of those that have been realised by our researchers tonight. So this could be you this time next year. Now, Maria is going to have a look at the chat. I should have been encouraging you from the outset to be writing in. I'm not sure if there are any questions in there or if you want to speak out. So
that's great. No, Gabrielle, thanks so much for that. And I'm just going to add a few more points. I think Gabrielle has covered pretty much everything there. Just, and forgive, all this information is on the SCoTENS website, so you may be familiar with it. But the amount that we give each year is between 3,000 and 6,000 sterling. And what it means is that you actually submit your budget in sterling, but you can request to have it paid in euros. But it's just the logistics because our financials are situated in the north. So we just need that to come in sterling. Also, there are two lead institutions. One must be north and one must be south. And in the case where they're HEIs, higher education institutions, then those higher education institutions must be paid up SCoTENS members. Gabrielle has gone through the 5 criteria, so that's great there. What you can't put in for funding for, that's often what you can't do, is academic staff time. So you unfortunately can't buy out your own time. Institutional overheads and publication, in other words, open access. So because the budget is quite limited, they're the 3 areas that we say, aren't eligible for funding. So what you can spend it for, but there are some limitations, is costs for conferences. So up to 20% of your budget. So in other words, if you're awarded 5,000 sterling, then 1,000 of that can be spent on conferences, and up to, as Gabrielle said, 40% for a research assistant. We pay out 1/3 initially. So when you're successful, you get 1/3 of the entire budget, and the final 2/3 are kept over to the end. And what do we mean by the end? The end is where we ask you to submit 2 reports, your financial report and a written report about the outcomes of your research project. And they're usually 5,000 to 7,000 words. Again, the same criteria as you would introduction, literature review, methodology, and so on. As we've heard tonight, and it's brilliant to hear, there have been so many publications. It's wonderful to hear that. In the case where you have a publication, you can just provide us with a link to the journal or wherever, or the database where people can log in and get access to it, and then just give us a short report, say 700 to 1,000 words, an executive summary, and just a reflection of what you've learned. I think I have covered nearly everything. Yes, we would say extensions can be had if you apply in writing, but the maximum is for 30 months from start of the project to the end. And we would ask that you would put the SCoTENS logo on any presentation or any publication. And finally, we would really encourage you to join the SCoTENS family. And what we mean by that is to come to our conference and to actually share your findings with us 1 to 3 years after you complete it. We'd love you to come every year if you could, but just get the word out there about SCoTENS. We're here to support you as best we can. And I'll have a final look and see if there are any questions in the question and answers. I think none so far. I'm going to stop talking now because I see you're all dying to go and get a cup of tea or your dinner or whatever. But if there is, please do. Please do. We'll take a few seconds. If anything comes in, there's a lot of us here from the committee. We're only too happy to answer for you. Julie, I don't see anything coming in. Will we hand over to you for the final closure, as they say?
That's lovely. Thank you, Maria. And I can be the person who's between everybody and that cup of tea and whatever the rest of the evening has in store for you. So good evening, everybody. My name is Julia Kustula and I'm the Southern Co-Chair of SCoTENS, and I will be very brief in my closing. I do hope that you have enjoyed this evening as much as I have done, or if you're watching back, which I know many people will, that you have enjoyed the recording. I think it's safe to say that this evening has been a real showcase of the positivity, the vibrancy, and the sustainability of SCoTENS. And at a time when there is so much turmoil in the world, to hear so many positive stories and phrases like professional friendships, professional learning, expanding networks, etc., it certainly does your heart good. And I think safe to say the past, present, and future of SCoTENS is in very safe hands and is very bright. A very particular thank you to our panelists this evening. So to Pamela and Shun, to Laura and Devon, to Barbara, Rachel and Maria, to Beverly and Mairead. Heartiest congratulations and a very proud moment for our John Coollahan Award recipients, the SCoTENS project, and the lead researchers, Michelle, Beverly and Mairead. Congratulations to you again. And thank you to everybody who's taken the time to join us this evening or has taken the time to watch back on the recording. Thank you to all my fellow SCoTENS committee members who have led sessions this evening or worked tirelessly in the background to ensure that this evening could happen. Particular thanks to our funders and of course to Tricia and to Anthony in the Centre for Cross-Border Studies who ensured that everything runs smoothly and effectively for us. So just in finishing, before we pop the kettle on, just to encourage everybody to continue to engage with SCoTENS, please do apply for that seed funding, and we look forward to hearing about your research at one of these events in the future. And finally, to just remind you of our save the date for the 2025 SCoTENS conference. It will be on the 16th and 17th of October, and we will have more information on that on our social media channels and on our website very soon. So to wish you all a lovely evening, and thank you again, and congratulations to everybody who has showcased their research this evening.